moment for me, because I'm about to chat with my babe of wrath, my co-babe of wrath, and co-founder of the McKinneyVento Homeless Education Act, which is actually not the name of it, but it's what I call it. And so I keep thinking if I say it long enough, it will become the name of it. Diane Nilan. Diane, welcome back to the show. Or yeah, welcome back because you've been on it all night at the park. This is one of the pre-taped ones. So okay. We're taping it, which is why we're all in different locations.
Right.
And Sonia Pitzi, the hero of homeless kids. Absolutely. Kids experiencing homelessness have never found a better friend than Sonia Pitzi. Tell us your title, Sonia.
My title is Region 3 Coordinator for the Education for Children and Youth Experiencing Homelessness. Heck yeah.
And so Region 3 Coordinator is of this Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Yes, so Pennsylvania is one of just a handful of states that has taken the McKinneyVento Act, and instead of having funding allocated to specific school districts, we've taken a regional approach. So as the Region 3 coordinator, I am extremely lucky to work with a program that, to work with Lincoln Intermediate Unit to house our program of ECYEH, and we cover then every school district in the entire state with all of our regions. I cover 8 counties and 50 plus school districts and charter schools.
Wow. Okay, so let's take a quick minute and explain what McKinneyVento Homeless Education Act, aka Pat LaMarche, means. So Diane, why don't you tell us what this thing is?
Well, it quite simply is a law that helps kids who are experiencing homelessness either stay in their same school if that's what they want to do, or get into the school nearest where they're staying. And in addition, it helps them get support they need to be successful in school so that they can be just like the other students in their class and have the same opportunities and be able to succeed in getting an education.
Oh, but that was always happening, wasn't it? Everybody was always bending over backwards for kids without homes, right?
Yeah, because they're so popular, because they just, you know,
so why did a law have to come along to say, treat kids like human beings?
Well, you know, some school districts didn't recognize the fact that they had kids that were experiencing homelessness, or in the worst case, some school districts absolutely didn't want the kids in school because I don't know why. It never made sense to me, but they needed a law to get the kids in school. So, you know, we're just opening the doors for kids to get an education, which seems like a good thing to do.
Well, I'm always the nasty one, so I'll be nasty. It's the show me the money thing. There are students, kids experiencing homelessness, parents don't necessarily pay property taxes. And therefore the school districts don't want the expense of educating the children. And so while in some cases it is purely innocent that kids don't get any kind of help, even though they've lost their home, or they don't get to stay in their school district when they're thrown out of their home. In many cases, it is a cost-saving measure to not have to educate kids without homes. And so now the McKinneyVento Act that was passed, you know, during No Child Left Behind, the only good part of that bill, makes sure that kids get to go to school. So Sonia, what does that translate to you? What happens in your world once you're armed with this legislation?
Well, you would think that having a law that says anyone who's identified as homeless has the right to go to school, free and appropriate public education. Okay, you're identified, you're going to school, great. This is what it looks like. But in reality, just having the eligibility portion of it is one of the biggest barriers. So we have to have the eligibility for McKinneyVento education, completely different than the HUD definition of homelessness. So we have to, in order to make sure that these kids have consistent and stable education, the biggest thing we want to do is keep them in their school of origin, the school where they've been going for years, whatever. And sometimes when they become homeless, they're moving into a different district. And so that's where this law is extremely helpful, because then we say, okay, you know what? We know they're in another district, but they have the right to stay in their school of origin. Again, seems very simple, yet it's not. Why? Well, there's many reasons. You alluded to some of it. And some of it also is we have to remove barriers for them to stay in their school of origin. And a big barrier for them to go from one school district back to their home school district is transportation. So transportation's a big thing. What does my job look like? You need to tell me what you're looking for, because my job looks different every day. And I think I've been doing this for 25 years. Back when this was, you know, the infancy of stuff, and where I was just this young, everybody is going to do the right thing, common sense kind of world, to now being 25 years later at 50 going, okay, well, I got to tell them what I think should be the common sense right thing of the world, and that's to obey this federal law. I'm not doing it because, I mean, I'm not saying that you have to do this because this is my opinion. I'm telling the districts that this is a federal law and you must do this. And I will show you and tell you how you can do it. So it's still best strategies and practices for a school district to not lose a lot of money, but still be on the right side of the law so that they're not sued.
So this is pretty important because, and after this interview, we're going to play my favorite Diane Nilan movie, which is My Own Four Walls, which allows these kids to say what's important about going to school for themselves. And the thing I love about that, and one of the points the kids make is, you're at one level of English in 7th grade in one school. You lose your home, you're moved out of the district because the shelter's in another home, or your car can be parked at the Flying J, and that's outside the district, and you're sleeping in your car. And then when you're there, if you had to go to that other school, the English program might be on a whole different book or a whole different level, and it's in the last chapter of Moby Dick, and you didn't read the first 90 chapters because you were in the other school district at the time, or you're doing something different in math, or you're doing, oh, and by the way, you've just lost all your friends. So when school departments say, well, it's their problem now, they're in that district, they are completely discounting the human toll on this 5-year-old, 9-year-old, 12-year-old, 15-year-old, right? So we are going to show My Own Four Walls, which is just unbelievable. Not a dry eye in the house, so prepare yourself. So I have been in trouble in the past in my employment for sicking Sonia Pitzi on people. So as a shelter director in my life, or as a operations manager, I have fought with superintendents and then finally had to give up and call Sonia. Why do people push back so hard? And what do you do when you have to go in and sit with some mucky muck? All these school districts have attorneys. I mean, what happens?
Well, Diane, do you want to go first, or do you want me to answer this?
Oh, I'll just, all the times that I've had those conflicts, I end up simply saying, this is the law. I helped write the law. I know what the law is. You're not following the law if you're not admitting the student. And besides, it's the right thing to do for the student. So you just end up telling them what the law is. And, there are ways of making them comply with the law if they're really being stubborn. But usually sitting there with the lawyers, and I say that I've written the law, they kind of go, oh, okay. And then that's it. But, it's like when you get down to it, kids, when they get their education and enjoy that stability, they end up being so much better for it. And why don't we want those kids to be better? That never makes any sense. So it's, for me, it's always been a fight worth fighting, and I'll fight to the death for it. And I've always won the fight. So it's just, it's like, I just want to say to them, save yourself trouble, because I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm not quitting.
Yes. And to go to what Pat was saying about using my name as a threat, I want to say that one of the things in Region 3 that we really pride ourselves about, and that working with Lincoln Intermediate Unit really prides ourselves, we want to nurture those relationships. So that relationship that I have with that school district, that liaison, that counselor, that teacher, they know that I know what I'm talking about, and that, no, I'm not a lawyer either. I didn't help write the law, but I know one law and I know it well. And I want to educate people on this. So it's not that I'm out to sick them or be like, do this or else. I just want them to know that, you need to comply with this. This is why you need to comply with this. How can I assist you and assist the family to have this happen? Because we want consistency and stability. And we also don't want the districts to not really understand why they're having this student thrown upon them or why they have to take it. We don't want to just be like, you have to take that kid and, blah, blah, blah. We want to build and nurture that relationship and say, this is why. And as Diane said, some of these kiddos, these students are they just yearn for that education. They want to learn. They want to be in school because school isn't chaos. They're in someplace safe. They've got teachers that they know. They've got district personnel that they know. They have friends, their teachers, anybody that they can talk to about what's going on, and they don't feel so alone. And we know that if we can have one positive adult in their life during these traumatic experiences, we can help change those negative neuro pathways to have them be positive, to create these kids who can reach the potential that we know they have. That we, as I say to all of the kids that I do outreaches with, I'm going to believe in you until you believe in yourself. And there's truth to that for any educator who's working with these students, and they just need to learn about the law. Sometimes they just don't know. People on top know, it hasn't trickled down. People are new to the field, they didn't learn this in college. Diane's been around, I've been around. It's every year it's like, oh wait, there's a law for homeless kids? Wait, what? And you're just like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this how many years? And I've been showing videos, and I've had awareness weeks, and I do presentations everywhere. And yeah, there's a law, let me tell you about it, kind of thing.
Well, that ignorance is a big part of the problem. And so we're going to put hereis.us information up where people can find it. That's the nonprofit that Diane started way back when this law came about. Diane has been traveling the country for 15 years, documenting the struggles of homeless kids and their families, and then taking those documentaries and turning them into educational videos. There's some that are just pretty much specifically for educators. One for a mom, I think, that went to jail. And is that the case, Diane? Mom went to jail, and then she needed this video so that her kids could stay in school. So if you need that information, and Diane, I travel with Diane occasionally, and I am always impressed when we walk into a homeless liaison's office and find out that they don't even know the extent of the law. So, that ignorance is something we need to wipe out, which is the point of education. So I want to get to what your everyday life is like as a liaison, Sonia. But in the meantime, you keep talking about the stability of school. Well, we got a pandemic.
I know.
And this has been a little bit of a problem lately, right? So school's out, and there's, there are people, I happen to be one of them, who think going back to school isn't necessarily the right thing to do this fall, at least until numbers get low enough so that, what are they going to do? They're going to get one kid with COVID in the school, and then they're going to send the 220 people they came in contact with into a quarantine for 14 days. It's unworkable to do the contact tracing, blah, 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 blah times 1,000. So what's it look like right now for kids without homes who are also now without schools because of the pandemic?
Well, if I can look at this right at March when it happened. March 13th, Friday, we got told, hey, schools are closing down. Over the weekend, schools in my area did fantastic making sure that they could have meals on Monday, because a lot of our kids rely on free and reduced lunch, right? So Monday comes, we at least have lunch. I'm going with, okay, I've got to figure out, this may only be a week, it may be 2 weeks, but during this time, what can they do? And in my head, I got to be honest, I was thinking, no, this is going to be the rest of the school year. So what can we do now that's going to help them the rest of the school year? Well, everything that we did, you know, up until the end of the school year is stuff that I'm going to be able to have in my back pocket as best practices and all of that going into the fall. And a lot of our districts will have that. So with the pandemic, first thing they say, stay home, right? Kids don't have a home. The kids that I do outreaches to, the teenagers that I do outreaches to, they're unaccompanied. A lot of them were unable to stay doubled up when they were couch surfing, because imagine being, for those who were quarantined and were in their own family unit being quarantined, and how that dynamic, you know, probably drove people insane. Now you have someone whose experiences are vastly different than what that family is, and they're like, I just can't do it, or they're afraid. There's, you know, afraid that it can come to that household or whatever. So now I have students who are having to live on the streets, abandoned buildings, tents, parks, etc. And those are usually when I do outreaches, that's who I go to. But then school starts. Now we need Wi-Fi. Well, where are we going to get Wi-Fi? One of the things that happened, just like with toilet paper and wipes, hotspots became impossible to get. There just wasn't enough. Districts tried very hard to get, you know, accessibility for things. And so then it was, okay, how can we make this happen? And also, rural parts of our area, they don't get Wi-Fi service. So how are we going to make this happen? How is it going to look? So everything that we do is creative. I have always said, and I think you two know me long enough, where I don't fit in a box. I'm just this maze of possibilities, right? So my job has always been deciding things during chaos and crisis. So this was nothing, you know, this was like, okay, I've got 6 students who can't get here, but they can get to this park. I'm going to be their hotspot. Let me sit, everyone's going to be around us, we're going to be masked up, social distance, whatever, and we're going to work on homework. I'm going to work on emails and reports because that's fun. And we're going to make sure that their education isn't interrupted. Or we're going to, I'll go and get the paper homework, bring it to them. And again, in a park, something, we will sit there and I will help them with that and do what I can to assist with that. But what's it going to look like going into the fall? It's going to look similar to that if we go to direct online learning. Some districts are starting 5 days in person right away. Some districts are doing 2-3 days. Some districts are saying, parents, you have a choice. We're doing in-person learning, but you also have the choice, if you don't feel safe, to have distance learning, but you know, you got to tell us now so we can figure it out. And then, you know, I think that it, once again, just planning ahead, I think it could go back to online distance learning. But am I going to be able to sit in a parking lot with these kids and be their hotspot when it's snowing? Am I going to be able to do that when there's a hurricane? I mean, we had some bad rains this year, and luckily I know parks really well around our area. So we have, you know, we can go under pavilions or, you know, that kind of thing. But again, you have to do it safely. You know, the kids, we were masked up all the time before things were mandated because I just knew. So you're just going to have to do that. But, you know, with the people that don't want to wear masks, all I can say is the kids that I work with, over 100 degrees, not one complains. So.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting thing. Yeah.
What?
That's the thing that I think people don't even understand about kids who grow up in homelessness, is they don't complain.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable. I mean, you guys all know it. I've never, when my kids were little, could I drive by a McDonald's, even if they were full, and not have them ask, hey, can we go to McDonald's? You drive a bunch of kids experiencing homelessness around in your car, they don't ask for anything. They ask for nothing. It's, you know, I wrote
the ones who did get a McDonald's Happy Meal with the toy, most of my kiddos asked me if I would wrap it up and give it to their parent or their sibling as a gift.
Right.
So.
Right. And I wrote a Huffington Post about a kiddo that was staying at my house who, we were going through my coins, my change. And I said, hey, keep your eye out for a 1941 dime, because they were worth like $5,000. And the kid said to me, brought me over a nickel and said, "Is this a dime?" When you're so unfamiliar with money, when you've held so little money that you don't know it from, you know, and this kid was like 7, this kid was not 5. But, you know, I just think people don't understand really how humble these children are. And they grow up in desperate situations, and sometimes there's desperate behavior. We have one guest that's going to be on the show is going to talk about when he would steal food. You know, he was homeless and when he'd steal food. Well, what do you expect? You know, you can only abandon people so long before they actually try and find another way to feed themselves. But the other thing I find interesting about your job, and it's not unique to you, but it is something wonderful about you that when I see it in other people that do your job, I'm like, oh my God, I'm just so grateful for Sonia's everywhere. But is you don't work 9 to 5.
No, I don't think I've ever worked 9 to 5.
You're 11 o'clock at night with a bunch of high school kids with candlelight, reading, working, eating pizza, trying to get the kids to.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I'll get a text early in the morning and it'll say, I can't get to school because this is happening. I know they have a ride ready for me. Can you tell them that I'm not going to be ready for that ride? And as soon as I can figure out how I'm getting to school, I'll get, you know, what there. And that's just like this crisis text that I get. And I'm like, all right, I'll make sure the bus driver, van driver, whatever knows, but I'm also going to help you figure out how you're getting to school and see what else we can do to help you to, you know, to get through this crisis.
So can people help you help these kids? I mean, do you need feminine hygiene products? Do you need, what do you need for these kids?
A home. It's a lot. I want people to donate those types of needs to school districts and to shelters, mostly because, again, as a regional coordinator, I don't have a lot of room to house things, but we do always need the hygiene products, the feminine hygiene products, toothbrushes, toothpaste, if things that you just like every day you think about, like think about what you did from getting up this morning to what you do going to sleep. Educationally speaking, all those educational needs, you know, those can always be donated to us, to the school districts, because obviously to get through school, you need some of that educational stuff. So what do we need? We need people to have conversations. We need people to become educated about this. We need to change the dialogue so it isn't, oh God, those homeless kids, we have to take them. No, it's, you know, this kid has experienced displacement and we are going to help them. We're going to help them because not only is it the right thing to do or it's the law, it's because they are worth it. They are worth putting our time in because they have value, and value is what we need to accept for these, you know, in the human race. So that's what we need: conversations, awareness. Donate where you can. If you don't know where to donate, contact Diane, contact myself, contact Pat, all of these things. Diane's traveling the country. Hear Us is a fantastic place to donate because she's documenting what is going on, the realness of it. And that needs, those stories need to get out there.
Yeah, maybe I can put a plug into, you know, people, we have a little book, 60 Ways, the Charlie book, 60 Ways to Help Homeless Kids. It's 60 ways to help homeless kids. You know, it's a little book, it's $10 that supports our organization, but it also gives you plenty of information that will really benefit the kids in your community. So it's one of the things that would be
it's a great one too. I give that to all my liaisons, some community agencies and churches and groups that say, what can we do? And I'm like, here you go. You
do you have some of those with you, Diane?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I have some also. So
okay.
People want to swing by the park, you can pick up a Charlie book. It's a wonderful help. And that's a nice way. Get a couple of books, have one in your house so that the next time you're thinking of what you'd like to do, you have it. But donate a copy of it to your local Boy Scouts, to your local Girl Scouts, to the church youth group. Get the Charlie books in the hands of people who try and teach other young people to have a social conscience, and never for a minute doubt that one of those kids in that group is already experiencing homelessness. You don't know it because they don't want you to know it. They'd rather drop dead than have you find out about it. But they are there, and your kids know them, and your kids play with them. And you know, you might guess it's this kid because they've never invited anyone over because there's no over to go to.
And you know, I think with your Priscilla book, I think that's one that really tells the story so poignantly of how kids relate to other kids in homeless situations, how they try to hide it, how, you know, it's so real everywhere. And Priscilla, that book has a way of conveying the story like nothing else. So I will certainly put in a big plug for that.
Nice.
And I will second that, because I was one of the lucky few who was able to get a pre-copy before it was printed. And I read it because I would do story time with the kiddos during this pandemic. And I read it with actually my teenage unaccompanied youth. And they were just fascinated by this. This book is for younger kiddos. But we read this and conversation started, and they just thought it was a great portrayal to get people into the conversation that was realistic to how people talk with them, talk about them, how they viewed Priscilla, how just kids in general are going to think of these things. And I mean, they were just fascinated by it. I will tell you, Pat and Diane will tell you this too, but they were very mad at me that it ended the way that it ended. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Well,
It ended, but it didn't end.
Right. I was going to say, let me just put, it's not the end of it because it's a 4-book series, but you know, just putting it out.
I've had a lot of people threaten me over the ending, but you know, I've got to say too that part of my description as a human being is that I'm just a walking buzzkill. I think maybe some people can say that about you too, Diane. Not you so much, Sonia. You're always so pleasant, but when you tell the truth about homelessness, like you walk out of the room and everybody's crestfallen. And so my 6-year-old grandson, then 5, said to me, "Why don't you explain homelessness in a chapter book for kids like me?" And I just can't thank Ronan enough, because when you, I mean, I'm always trying to find a new way to tell the story, the truthful story, without just depressing people so much that they don't want or they can't act on the problem. And so by writing it for kids, it's really made it a lot easier. It's still a 140 or 130 page book. It's not there are pictures in it, but it's not a picture book. It's a book. And then the last shout out I have to give is to the Pennsylvania Council of the Arts, which is part of in conjunction with the National Council of the Arts, together with their STEAM project, financed the artwork that's in it. And it's absolutely beautiful artwork. And,
oh yeah,
gorgeous.
Tommy Tweedy Shaw did an amazing job. And, you know, all the proceeds benefit others because, as I like to say, only a jackass would make money on homeless people.
That's a great slogan.
So we try really hard not to be jackasses at the Charles River Foundation.
You have such a way with words.
So if you want to see Sonia in the flesh, she is actually going to be at the park. Again, we're not encouraging people to come down, but if you want to stop by, just remember that as long as you social distance and wear your mask, we'd love to say hi to you. And so take the minute, come on down, pick up a copy of the Charlie book, or you can pick up a copy of Priscilla the Princess of the Park, or go to Whistle Stop on Tuesday afternoon. We'll be there also. But anyway, thank you so much, Sonia.
All right, I'm going to put this in, Max. You can produce it, whatever you need to do. But we have our ECYEH YouTube channel, and there are some great videos. In fact, one, Pat, where you read a video or read a story of one of our students who wrote it, and you read it as his voice. You know, with our hashtag campaign, I Will Be Your Voice, that we have a lot of videos on there, and the ECYEH Facebook page. So that's, you can search for ECYEHPA is how you can search for that.
So Sonia, it's okay with you if we tack a few of those I Will Be Your Voices onto the end of this interview?
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. I think they're great. And if we have any of the things from the play, we could do that, but I don't know if we have that, but
Yeah, we might
But
do, we might have saved the play for next year.
Yeah.
Because they're hoping now, the new play, I Will Be Your Voice, written by Chris Kapp. It's, now she's working with a group on producing that as a regular film. So
Yep.
we might have that for the next camp out. Post-COVID, I hope.
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you,
Yep.
Diane. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you,
Oh,
Pat.
Watching, because
Pam.
we're gonna have Diane's film, My Own Four Walls, and Sonia's I Will Be Your Voices coming up after this. So keep on watching and stick with us, and we'll be live again tomorrow morning. See you then.
Yeah.